Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Outside Line podcast. Today, I am joined by the one and only Chris Shoemaker and the world famous Mason Wood. Boys, we missed last week, but you know what? We're back this week. We are ready.
Are we though?
I feel like we are. I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready. I'm amped up.
I'm more than ready for today. I mean, what a day we had yesterday to talk about. Holy crap. Lots to talk
Man.
about.
And a little bit last week too.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys were watching, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like we got much to talk about if you're asking me. All all jokes aside, apologies for missing last week. I got sick overnight before recording, so it's mostly my fault for not recording, and I feel like the world just didn't have good intentions for us that day because everything that could have went wrong did go wrong that day to prevent us from recording that day. So, like I said, apologies for that, but we are back. We're ready to bring some exciting content here for you guys. So let's just briefly recap last week. Last week, the Cup Series, just all of NASCAR actually, was in Dover. It was a very Truex weekend, guys. Ryan Truex, Xfinity winner on Saturday. First career win for him. Good for him. And then on Monday, Martin Truex Jr. breaks the winless streak, dating back to Richmond of 2021 in September. Gets his fourth Dover victory. And Mason, do you want to brag a little bit more about that?
Oh, I mean, I couldn't be more excited. My pick last week, Martin Truex Jr., with a fantastic victory. There's a clip out on TikTok, our Back Sports page TikTok, that you can check out. I was more than excited, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to give Martin Truex Jr. credit because I'll be honest, it's the most excited I've ever been for a Martin Truex Jr. win. I normally am not an MTJ supporter. I don't root for him. He's normally like in the back half of my drivers I don't normally care for. But then this thing happens usually where the driver doesn't do well for a little while, and then it feels a little weird, and then I'm like, you know what? I kind of miss seeing them win as much as I hated it. I went through it with a lot of. I think I went through it with Jeff Gordon back in the day. I've gone through it with Kyle Busch because now I don't. Now I'm kind of excited when Kyle Busch wins. It's this weird phenomenon, and I've kind of had that with MTJ. So I was really happy to see him win. I'm really mad I didn't put down some money on the MTJ bet. But it is what it is. So, we'll keep moving forward. We'll have a good pick this week, and he'll win on Sunday, and I'll brag about it some more next episode. So,
Mason and I we picked the right winners twice, didn't we?
we did. We've had a good year so far with picking winners, and unfortunately, Jacob hasn't had.
I'm just glad to have somebody in the top 5. If I'm being perfectly honest.
It's all you need to keep your spirits high.
I'm telling you, my luck is about as bad as Kyle Larson. And and I got my hat on today, so that makes it even worse.
Well, and his luck hasn't been much better, to be honest. I mean, he got turned so early in the race. We're doing this again.
Yep. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But for IndyCar, Scott McLaughlin got the dub at where were we last week? Alabama.
Yeah.
So very good drive for him. Feel like gave him I wouldn't say it gave him a huge boost. Oh dear.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine. But yeah, that's definitely what Scott McLaughlin needed because he was down in the back half of the top 10 in points, I think, before that win. So maybe they can get a little bit of momentum going into, as we're now in the month of May, going into the Indy GP and Indy 500. But now that
Poor
we're
old Roman
done,
Grosjean, though.
yeah, Grosjean can't catch a break.
He's on the right strategy. Everything's going well for him. But then there goes McLaughlin. McLaughlin is a little bit like Kevin Harvick almost. Kind of just sneaks up on you.
Yeah, I'd say so. Um, so now that we've very briefly recapped last week,
And the F1 race
let's.
last week was really boring.
Yeah, we don't have much to say about that.
Yeah. Except Perez won, and I'm pretty happy about that. I like Perez.
Yeah, I am happy that Checo was able to get the dub last week at Baku. But on to this week, we are going to start with our F1 part right now in Miami. I still don't know how to feel about it. I don't know about you guys, if you guys watched any. I still don't know how to feel about it. Max
Such a
Verstappen,
goofy thing.
yeah, it's
The
just
venue's so goofy.
it was a lot better this year. I think the venue at least was compared to last year because at least they put real water in the marina.
Did they? I thought it was
Yes,
still fake. It looked
I heard
fake.
something. I heard something that it was real.
I did too, but then when they showed it to look fake, it's like it looked like they just put a hose in it and like there's a puddle there with wood on top of it. It looks more realistic on F1 2022 than it does in real life.
It's true. I wonder if they'll actually make it even more realistic in F1 2023.
And the fact that we're talking about the water shows you how exciting the race actually was.
It's true. Um, so Max Verstappen once again came out with the dub at Miami. Um, I will say this: the strategy he was on, I actually liked. That I will admit, because it was very interesting how they played out the two sides of Red Bull with Perez going, starting on the mediums from pole and switching from the mediums to the hards uh, from that first stint, whereas Max stayed out for like 45 laps on the hards for his first stint, got the lead, and then switched to mediums. I will admit that part I actually did like because it was just a different strategy. It's not out of this world crazy, but it was a different strategy, especially with him starting in the back like he did.
Well, and I mean, you could call it crazy. I mean, the next guy on mediums was Hamilton at sixth, and then ninth with Ocon. So I mean, there wasn't everybody was on hards at the end of that race. It was definitely the different strategy, and it paid off in the end.
Yeah, I agree, but at the same time, I think too we got a little bit lucky with track evolution, and and then the lack of safety cars, and even there was absolutely no local yellows either, which was just unusual. No retirements, no local yellows, no nothing. It was
There
just
was
about straightforward as you can get, and I think Verstappen might have benefited a lot from that.
yeah, like
We
I
haven't
said,
had
I
a
think
race
that
like that in a little while. It feels like.
I think they said on the broadcast it's like only the ninth race ever that has all the cars finished.
that's weird. That is weird.
I could have the number wrong, but it's some small number like that.
Right. Um, so, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this Miami GP. Um, I don't know how long they're signed through with F1, but I don't like it because it's just a goofy track. It just, excuse me, it really does not sit well with me how Miami handles, and like with all the hype it had, it kind of makes me nervous how Las Vegas will be later this year.
I think Las Vegas will actually have even more hype and it'll be even more goofy
Yeah.
because the show is part of Las Vegas. And you see what they do at Vegas Golden Knights games. Although I will admit that I really like the Vegas games. I really like their opening ceremonies at the Vegas games. A lot of people don't, but anyways. That said, I kind of I don't
Yeah.
think. And then the track at Vegas, the track map looks boring.
I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a good while. But all I remember is that there's a long front straightaway, like a very long front straightaway.
It's really really long. I mean, I'm looking at the track map right now. It's incredibly it makes the track look so much bigger because you have that, and then there's another big straightaway going up towards the start finish line.
Interesting. Hey,
So
maybe they'll hit 220, 225 going down that straightaway. Maybe
I
with
think the
with DRS.
Man, that
it's
track looks just so boring.
Well, we'll see how it handles when F1 2023 comes out.
well, and it's gonna look beautiful. That is a good point. That I'm waiting for F1 2023 for the specific purpose of getting to run the Vegas course. It's gonna look beautiful, no matter how goofy it is. It is gonna look beautiful with all of the buildings and Caesar's Palace and the Bellagio in the background. It's gonna look beautiful when it happens. But I think the concern might want that people might have is are all these U.S. races. There's 3 of them on the F1 schedule. 2 of them feel kind of gimmicky.
Yep.
Like that's a concern. There's only one that feels like a genuine race, and that's Circuit of the Americas. So that might be a concern that we talk about more in the future.
What I never understood was why, if they absolutely wanted 2 races in this country, instead of calling it the Miami Grand Prix, why don't they make the COTA the Grand Prix of America, then the Grand Prix at Miami of Grand Prix, the United States Grand Prix, because Circuit of the Americas, American Grand Prix. Kind of like how
Wordplay.
they did the European Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, I don't know. I don't think about that, too hard. Um, I kind of have a thing. Like if they want to name it whatever, just let them name it. We
Yeah.
obviously don't get paid the big bucks to decide that. Um, so I guess it's just one of those deals where we're kind of like shrugging our shoulders. So um,
Yeah, but like y'all were saying, I'm not really all that crazy about 3 races and 2 of them being street tracks.
right. Um, and I do like the street tracks though, but we don't need an overabundance of them in the U.S.
If Vegas is successful, do you think it makes it a lot easier to cut Miami out of the equation?
Yes, and if they cut Miami out, I think that they will find a different venue for to keep a third U.S. state on the schedule.
Yeah, and I kind of have mixed feelings about it, just because about getting another venue, because say they go to a track like an already established track, like say for example Watkins Glen, Road America, which they'd never go there, but for example, they would completely mess up the character of those 2
Mm-hmm.
tracks to make it FIA suitable for F1. And we don't want that.
Is there any sort of possibility that they look at the Chicago street course and see if NASCAR is any successful with it? And then that could replace Miami if they do if they want to keep it in the street course ballpark. Because other than that, you're running out of like big cities that feel like they are worth an F1 race, right? New York, Chicago, LA, but they're not going to go to LA because there's already Vegas. And if they're moving on from Miami, there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah.
I don't think they would go to Chicago.
I don't think so either. I think that New York would be more likely. I'd love to see them at Watkins Glen, but that would never happen. But
we don't
it
want to
would,
see them at Watkins Glen.
it would
honestly.
be you love chaos. It would be chaos.
Yeah, but the thing is, they would mess up the track, though. I'd love to see the cars there, but they'd mess up the track. It already has character, and then the FIA would just take that character away.
Fair. That is a fair point.
There was going to be a few years ago a second race in the U.S. before Miami, and they were looking at New York City, and is actually going to be in New Jersey overlooking New York City, but that never came to fruition.
It would probably be right next to MetLife.
I don't know, honestly. I don't remember much about it. What about Belle Isle in Detroit?
No. If IndyCar is not going there anymore, then F1 wouldn't go there.
I wonder why IndyCar is not going there. Because that was a popular place.
Yeah, I guess they're just moving to. They're actually just moving the Detroit race to downtown Detroit, which I don't know why you would do that. But IndyCar decided to do it anyway.
That reminds me of that one race IndyCar a few years ago at Belle Isle. They had some stupid executive driving the safety car.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
And that delayed the race like a half hour, 45 minutes, because the dude wrecked the pace car. He got a little bit too happy with the throttle, I believe, and wheel spun, lost the rear end of it, ended up taking the bumper off of it. Hitting the wall and take the bumper right off.
Yep, I remember that. It made ESPN, which is sad, but it made ESPN.
That was stupid.
Yeah. So anyway, going back to F1, the next race is Imola. It's Imola.
Imola.
No.
Mason's sitting there agreeing with me. He's just shocked, like, how can you say it like that?
Two different parts of the country, we'll just say that. So Imola is the weekend of May 19th to the 21st. I don't see anybody else but Red Bull dominating this race. If something does happen, then the Red Bulls would have to take each other out on the first lap. But I don't see that happening.
Perez isn't greedy enough to do that. At least not yet.
No. So our current F1 World Championship points are Verstappen 119 points, Perez 105, Alonso 75, Hamilton 56, Sainz 44, Russell 40, Leclerc 34, Stroll 27. Poor Lando. Norris has 10 points and Gasly has 8 points.
Yeah. And how about Alonso, though? I think he's finished third in every single race, hasn't he?
That, I believe so. That sounds about right.
He's about as consistent you can be.
That's all part of El Plan. So let's.
What are you looking at? Mason was just there like,
He's just listening to us.
I'm just listening, and I'm on F1.com looking at yesterday's finishing results in the standings.
So IndyCar is back this coming weekend. It is
Yes.
officially the month of May. So you guys know what that means, right?
I hope so.
it's spring.
Right? It means it's your birthday, Mason, obviously.
Yes, Friday. It's 22
Yep.
years old. Let's go.
Yeah,
So-
IndyCar is actually going to be doing a big old celebration for you. They're racing that big old race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's a little late, but it's
Yeah.
a big old party for you.
If you guys haven't heard the news, they're actually this is the first time that we're announcing it. So you'll see a tweet from IndyCar here pretty soon. They're
Breaking
changing the
news.
name. Yes, they're changing the name of the Indy 500. It's going to be called the Mason 500 now, so they can celebrate me. And then rather than milk at the end, they're going to drink lemonade at the end because that's my favorite drink. So those are going to be the new changes. So I know it's controversial, but everybody will adjust to it as time kind of goes on.
Not the Woody
Why-
500.
The Wood 500? Is that what you said? The Wood 500? That
I
sounds
said the
better.
Woody 500.
Oh, the
or
Woody
the Wood
500?
500.
Let's call it the Wood 500.
Sponsored by, well, no, I'm not going to go there. This is a family show.
Content. I love it. So our next IndyCar race is the Indy Grand Prix on Saturday. Our winner last year was Colton Herta. He's been very quiet this year, guys. Could this be his chance to get something going for the season?
I mean, Colton Herta, I don't know what's been going on with him. He had a bad season last year, then he's not been doing anything this year. Maybe it's because his dad left. They switched strategists, and his dad's not with him anymore. I wonder if that could be part of it.
That could be why, because when Brian was Colton's strategist, he was kicking tail.
Yeah. And
So-
two, there's automatically in bond there. It's not like you have to build up chemistry with a new guy.
Oh, definitely. And it's just, I don't know. Excuse me. It could be, that could definitely be a factor. It's just one of those weird things where you're not used to seeing Colton Herta in the back half of the pack because he's in very good equipment. He's still in Andretti.
Yeah.
Okay. So still at Andretti.
Ever since that whole F1 thing, he just hasn't been doing well.
I think that's affecting him mentally. Is what it is.
You think?
Yeah, I don't want to speculate too hard on that, but he was really looking forward to getting his super license, and we talked about it. I don't know, last week whenever Brad Pitt announced that he was doing the F1 filming on the tracks, and Colton tweeted like something like, "Oh, Brad Pitt got his super license before me." So you could tell that this has been bothering Colton for a while, and it still is.
I noticed that what had been bothering American drivers in general for a long time, too. They're still mad about it.
Oh yeah, it still makes me mad.
I remember when Brad Keselowski, I'll put it this way, he's not my favorite driver in NASCAR, but he put out a tweet last year, and I liked what he said. He said that, paraphrasing, that F1 only welcomes American money into the paddock. They don't welcome Americans into the paddock, just American money.
I exactly remember that tweet. And that's a very good point, because it's just the FIA has not been a fan of American drivers for, what would you say,
Oh,
a long time.
a lot of years. Longer than
So
2 years.
yeah, a lot longer than 2 years. Um, so that may be one reason why Colton has been doing so great recently. I don't want to speculate too hard on that, um, but that's a little theory that I've got going on.
I think if
But
he finishes sixth or higher in the championship this year, he pretty much can get a super license. I don't know that for a fact, though.
Well, Colton sits 10th right now, and I think the biggest thing, I mean, this weekend's going to be an important weekend for him. They ran here, they obviously won last year, and they did not start the season off well. And then the next two races, they were okay. Long Beach, he had a much better run. Things were kind of turning up, and then things kind of fell apart last week in Birmingham. So really, it's going to be how do they respond to last week being a setback. If they respond well this weekend, then he's going to have a real chance at being in that top 6 at the end of the year. But if they do not respond this weekend, there's going to be a lot of concern about where Colton Herta's at when we get to Nashville and Portland later down the line.
I noticed last year that Colton Herta, when he's under pressure, he doesn't do well. Like, I recall him crashing out from the lead a couple times last year. One time was
Nashville,
Nashville. Yeah, then there was another time at another street track. Was it Detroit?
that sounds about right. I'm not 100% certain on that. Um, but I know that there was definitely a couple times last year where Colton had some great opportunities last year and did not capitalize on them.
Yeah, and he's not good under pressure.
No, and that's just unfortunate.
Which, if he's going to try to make another push into F1, that needs to be fixed.
Right,
Fair point.
because F1's just it's obviously intense, and he needs every bit of focus he can get. I mean, it's not like he can, you know, scrape the wall with a stock car. Is like it's just one hit with the wall and you're done. And, I mean, the same goes for IndyCar for the most part, but those cars are a lot tougher than a
Yeah.
F1 car.
Yeah,
That's what I like about IndyCar. You can sometimes you can just smack the wall and your car will be fine. But yeah, right now I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say I really like Colton Herta. I think it's a good driver, but right now he doesn't deserve to be in F1. He just
No, and
doesn't have
if we
that in him right now.
yeah, and if we were able to see one driver in F1, it'd be Joseph Newgarden, but he doesn't have any interest in F1.
He would be a race winner in F1. I truly think so.
100%, 100%, and we need him.
And it's just a shame that he never had any interest in going to F1. And I can understand why, because the FIA politics, office politics, are just bad.
it's
That's
not
just
something people want to be a part of.
yeah, that's just the FIA for you.
And then, of course, you have the office politics and Ferrari, which getting back on track with going to Imola, Ferrari has to do well there.
Yeah, being in Italy, it's going to be
That's
tough,
kind of
though.
like their home race there at Imola. That is Ferrari territory.
Yeah, it is Ferrari territory, and like the same with Monza too. So they have to perform well.
Mm-hmm.
And the Italian media isn't very kind. They can be very impatient when it comes to Ferrari.
They just want
Italians are impatient with sports in general.
Did you just do this?
No, I just did this. Like,
Grazie.
If you're talking about Italian, you gotta do with the Italian thing.
believe it or not, I was there for 10 days in March and did not do this once.
That's
And I didn't see anybody. I did not see anybody do it a single time.
shocking.
I don't think you were really in Italy.
I went. I mean, sure. I didn't go to Sicily, so you could say that. You know, we went to Rome, Sorrento, Naples, Florence, Venice. You know, didn't go anywhere near the track though, where they're racing this weekend.
How do I know you didn't go to Naples, Florida?
Hey man, you get them with Athens, Georgia.
You know, if they have a Coliseum in Naples, Florida, I'd be. Is there? I don't know.
Anyways, Imola.
Anyways,
Imola.
yeah. So Imola's happened this weekend, and Ferrari needs to be on point. I don't see how they're gonna overcome Red Bull.
I think they showed some progress at Miami a little bit.
A little bit, but not much.
No. And I think at the very least, they need a podium at Imola.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Charles needs a podium worse than Carlos.
Oh, Charles is what? He's 7th in points, 34 points, and he was 2nd in points last year at this point. So,
yeah. And the Italian media, I can see them eventually calling for his head.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And let's not forget too, in Miami, he crashed twice. Once in practice and then once in qualifying. He's just not having a good time right now.
No. That's just it's unfortunate to see. So let's go back to where we were. Indy GP happening this Saturday, 3:00, I believe, on NBC. And then after that, it's the best time of the year. The countdown to Indy is on. We will have testing and practice actually throughout the next couple of weeks as we lead up to qualifying, which is 1 week before the Indy 500. Probably one of my favorite days of the year, honestly, for a qualifying session. I don't know what it is about it, but Carb Day is just it's fun. It's just so much fun.
You know, they have had a little bit of testing here and there at Indy. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. The testing's been pretty tame so far. I don't know. Well, I don't think we've seen any crashes, at least not yet, which is thank goodness.
Yeah. We said the same thing about testing last year, and then Colton ended up on his lid the final practice session.
Yeah, I remember that. But overall, I'm glad he wasn't hurt. But overall, it was actually not too bad last year, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And some years are worse than others when it comes to crashes.
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely weird, whether it's with the car, the environment, whatever. Guys, who are we feeling for the Indy Grand Prix this weekend?
Grosjean.
That's kind of who I was thinking. I was going to go with either Grosjean or Newgarden.
I was kind of feeling Newgarden this week.
All right.
Pick somebody else, Jacob. No, I'm just kidding. You can have Newgarden.
Okay, that's rude.
You can have Newgarden. I'll pick somebody else.
Tell you what, my birthday present from me to you is that I will let you have Newgarden, and I will pick. I'll pick Pato.
My picks are Grosjean and or let's see, Marcus Ericsson.
Okay.
Marcus Ericsson's been good so far this year.
He has. We
Honestly,
talked
in the
about it last
points.
episode.
Yeah, so
I'm thinking it'll be him, and maybe I'm gonna cheat and make a third pick, and it'll be Joseph Newgarden.
can't cheat the system.
He just did, apparently.
Golly. So our top 10 for our IndyCar points, Marcus Ericsson at 130 points leading the way. Pato, 127. Alex Palou, 121. McLaughlin all the way up to fourth after his win last week at 119. Grosjean in fifth, 115. Newgarden, 105. Will Power, 104. Dixon, 98. Not used to seeing him down that far. Kyle Kirkwood, 92 points, and Colton is 10th in points with 85 points.
I will say this too. My two official picks are Ericsson and Grosjean. But anyways, I will
Why don't
say
you just
this.
pick the whole field? Why don't you just pick the
Yeah.
whole field? You take them all, Chris. Chris's picks winning next week, guys.
Yep.
I'll put money on it. The whole field.
I
I'm
mean,
bound to win.
You are.
You are. I mean, if you put $1 bet on every single person in the field, you're bound to win somewhere. I think about that sometimes when with the racing bets. I'm like, you can win. It is possible if you just like NASCAR or like IndyCar be easy because how many drivers race each week in IndyCar?
Like 22.
Yeah,
27,
$22. You got $22 a week. It could work.
Hey, man.
It's rain money over here.
Just throwing money around.
Oh, I didn't say I had that money. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know
I'm
that
not
feeling.
doing it. I'm not doing it. I have a hard time placing any sort of racing bets. Racing is too,
Out there.
correct.
Yeah.
And you have such a just anything can happen. And so much that's just out of the control of the drivers, like how many times do guys get, involved in things that are completely out of their control, so it's not worth it.
So one last thing I want to discuss before we wrap this part up. We had an ARCA race on Saturday at Kansas. Jesse Love came out with the win on Saturday. Honestly, I don't remember anything from this race other than Jesse Love winning. All I know about the point standing is that Love leads the way with Frankie Muniz in second. It's going to be tough to beat Jesse Love for this championship. That's all I'm going to say because he's been the class of the field for a long time.
If Frankie Muniz doesn't win the championship, I'll riot.
Well, he did not have a good weekend. He did not finish the race this weekend, so that's you might be rioting, Chris.
Time to get out the pitchforks.
So,
did
gentlemen,
you see that really gnarly T-bone?
I did not see the T-bone, but
I didn't see it either.
I remember that there was a car that hit the back straightaway wall at a 90-degree angle and caught on fire.
Man,
I'd have to go look at the highlights.
The ARCA uses last generation cars, don't they?
Yes, they use the Gen 6 cars.
Part of me wonders if they were using current gen cars, if there wouldn't have been drivers hurt.
I don't know.
But anyways, it's a moot point.
Yeah, I don't know. All I really know is that ARCA is using the Gen 6 car for their cars now. Um, Whether they go to the next gen car in the future, I highly, highly doubt. Um,
Do they
but that
still use carburetors?
they should. I would assume they do.
It's kind of funny. NASCAR and I assume ARCA are the only thing that I know of that still uses carburetors.
Love it. So, gentlemen, I think that'll wrap it up for this part. So, when we upload our next part for this episode, we will be discussing the pure chaos that took place at Kansas.
Oh yeah.
So, that's going to be a good one. So,
Next
tune in,
time on Great
guys.
Fall Z.
Exactly. So, tune in, guys, for our next part of the outside line, and we will catch you guys on the next part. We'll see you on the next one.